What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Bodacious Rant with Burn and Rye. I hope everybody's having a lovely weekend, getting ready for the luck of the Irish this week, because it's going to be St. Paddy's Day, No offense to those who are actually Irish. I don't know all that stuff. But anyways, today is a bittersweet episode just because we are ending... we're only in the first quarter of the year, but man, one of the best shows has already finished off its first season. You guessed it, The Last of Us, episode 9. And it's for those of you who played the game, I'm very curious. Leave in the comments what you guys thought of it. Also, before we get started, because this is always a spoiler review, that's not going to change, guys. Sorry, you gotta watch it. It's
the finale,
at this point, yeah, that's true.
At this point, yeah.
Well, imagine if somebody just started watching the finale before they saw the rest of a show. How does that happen? That would just be weird. It's so you're gonna ruin the ending before you even start the show. It doesn't matter. But before we keep going, guys, please do not forget to give us a like, ring the bell, and of course press that subscribe button. We truly appreciate you, and thank you for all the viewers and stuff. And let's keep the community growing, shall we? But Bern, what were your overall thoughts on this episode before we kind of go into one of the cooler details of this one?
Yeah, in terms of a finale, I think it ended it about as well as I think it could have. A lot of the stuff that happened in this episode were definitely one-to-one in how it plays out in the game. Obviously, there's a lot of gameplay sections that, aren't in here, and that's just sort of more elaborated for the video game. And, of course, they haven't been adapting those parts throughout the series, so having not get those gameplay sections, in particular there's a section in the sewers in the game leading up into the hospital that isn't done here, and I think it makes sense that it's not here because it's just a purely last action sequence that we get in the video game, and so it's much more for players things. But in overall how the plot points, the emotional beats play out, it's very, very similar to the game, and I loved it then, and I love it here now.
I think this is the first episode this season that is almost play for play ripped right out of the game for the most part, except like you said, the little the under the freeway / sewer part.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was good. Do not get me wrong. I still love the show overall. I think the episode was just a little. It was just missing a little something for me to be oh my god, one of the best finales I've seen. I think it is partially because I recently replayed part 1, so I kind of already relived it and went through this whole journey with them kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I think that kind of plays into it for me. But other than that, I think my favorite part of this whole episode was the beginning. And I think that's why I appreciated this show, is how it's taken not necessarily liberties with it, but it's given us more context to certain elements of The Last of Us. Specifically, Ashley Johnson, who's the voice actors for Ellie in the games, who's also great. And for those of you who don't know, I'm pretty sure she was also in the first Avengers movie. She was one of the waitresses that talked about Captain America.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so she's always been a cool person, cool actor in the scenes. But I like that this beginning is basically Ellie's mom literally fighting to give birth to Ellie, and it's man, no wonder Ellie is the way she is. Her mom was a fighter, and so is she, and it was very, very sad that even then her mom, unfortunately, she did pass immunity to Ellie, but her mom wasn't immune, because when Marlene met up with her, you got the vibe that, Marlene has already known Ellie literally her whole life. She knew her mom, and they were good friends. They were close some form. And how she got bit by that one clicker, and just she's like, you got to kill me. But make sure, take Ellie to Boston, make sure she's cared for, and just take care of her. It was pretty tough pill to swallow, but it was man, I loved it because it's finally we got to see where Ellie came from, because it's never been in the games at all. No one really knows where she came from. So I'm sure there's gonna be some people well, it gets rid of the mystery of it. But I think this is one of those mysteries I'm I wouldn't mind knowing what happened, how Ellie started out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a nice expansion, I think, and like you, I do agree that it was really cool seeing sort of the origins of Ellie, and also getting Ashley Johnson, who of course is Ellie in the game, and having her cameo here as literally Ellie's mother. I thought that was a nice little way of like acknowledging how she was one of the creative forces that brought this character to life. So in a way, she is kind of Ellie's mom in real life. So it was nice giving her this role, and it was also really good at expanding on her relationship with Marlene to sort of make the ending of this episode and of this series a little bit more conflicting, and we get a little bit more of Marlene's perspective, whereas in the game, it's very Joel and Ellie focused, so there isn't a lot to dig into other characters. In the game, we do get sort of these voice recordings of Marlene talking about Anna and talking about her relationship with her and how she knew Ellie. So I'm glad that they actually visualized it here for us, because in the game, that's something you can easily miss if you're not like exploring like every nook and cranny. But here, I think they made the right choice in giving us that relationship and establishing how these characters knew each other for a very long time, and that Marlene literally knew Ellie since birth.
Yeah, I thought, like I said, the fictional Ellie giving birth to the live action fictional Ellie was just, I think, the creme de la creme. And I think she had a better cameo than Troy Baker did, where he was one of the creepy cannibals last episode, got chopped in the neck. But, they're both great. To have the original Joel and Ellie come in this show in the way they did was amazing. And yeah, I think the rest of the episode played out pretty great, where they get to see the giraffe, which was special effects wise was amazing. That looked pretty fucking real, and you just see Ellie just like the video game, where after she survived essentially sexual assault and cannibalism, she's just kind of, it's almost like she's lost hope on life. Like, what, do I even want to be here anymore? Like, what is all this for? Kind of. I feel like that was the vibe Bella Ramsey was trying to portray. That she's the little kid we've enjoyed watching throughout this whole show, with all her little quips and all her attitude. It just dwindled in the beginning part of this episode. But it's only when they saw the giraffe, one of like these. It really is one of those creatures that I'm sure if we saw in person that up close, it's like, holy crap! Like, this is such a breathtaking moment. We got to see her smile again and feel like it looked like the old Ellie again. And I just like that Pedro also really was playing into the fact that at this point Joel is full on attached. This is his adoptive daughter. He's questioning it. I think he has a gut feeling something bad's gonna happen. He's like, let's just go home. Why even care about this? Like, he doesn't want to lose her at anything. So great foreshadowing for what happened in the rest of the episode, and even in the game it was great foreshadowing too. Because I remember in the game playing it, I'm like, yeah, this is not going to end well. Something's going to happen if he's already like nervous about it. Did you ever get that feeling when you played it or like watching it again?
Well, I mean, I definitely got the idea of that. This is where their characters were always going to end up. Him at this point, like completely open up and completely accepting of Ellie as his daughter, and him wanting to protect her at all costs, and Ellie wanting to complete this mission to make this whole horrible journey that they've been on not be in vain. So I mean that conversation that they have, while they're gazing at the beautiful imagery of these giraffes and them just like out in this park. It's just like how it was in the game. Like, this is the emotional endpoint of each character and where they're at and what their journey has brought them. So yeah, you do definitely get the sense that Joel wants nothing more than to just turn back at this point and presumably live a happy and quiet life with Ellie and and Jackson with Tommy, and have a family and have sort of like about as normal of a life as you can. But Ellie is at this point just completely determined on like ending this mission and seeing it all the way through. Like she said, there's no halfway about this, and I truly believe that when she says it, that she's not willing to turn back at this point, and she wants to get this done to make everything that they've been through worth it.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're in her position, why wouldn't you? Because they've gone through so much, they've seen and dealt with so much crap. It's like, why would we just turn around now? Like, she can't be at peace with herself, is what she's trying to tell Joel. Like, nothing's gonna fix how I'm feeling right now, but at least if we do this, I may feel better, kind of thing. And just like in the game, I like that Joel kind of opened up to her about, his suicide attempt after Sarah died, and just him dealing with that whole trauma. And when she's like, "Oh, so time heals all things, huh?" Like a typical like, she's like anyone would think like, "Oh, so you're just trying to say like I'll get over it eventually, right? Like time will be fine." He's like, "No, it wasn't time. It was." He's like, "It was you. You helped me get through this and like see the importance of life again." Very much like what Bill and Frank went through in episode 3, where he's just saying, "You were my purpose. Like I wasn't scared before, but now I am now." Very much like Joel was, like how we called it all those weeks ago. Like this is essentially foreshadowing for this moment, and it was just great, like great dialogue throughout this whole episode. Just these two actors really just throwing these emotional gum punches left and right. It was almost like an emotional creed.
I mean, yeah, that moment where Joel's like pouring his heart out to her and admitting to the fact that he did think about taking his own life after Sarah died, and it definitely adds more context to why he's deaf in that right ear, because literally there was a gun to the side of his head, and it's a sad thing, but it shows that why he cares about her so much is because she saved him from that person, from that state of mind, from that feeling of emptiness and not wanting to live on. And he's been in a way sort of a zombie up to this point, just going through the motions, committing acts of violence, and just like completely detaching himself from that. But ever since he met her, he's been able to bring some of that old self, the pre-breakout, the pre-infection, the pre-world ending version of Joel, back into the fold. And that's what we see a little bit here in the beginning of this episode, how, he's very talkative, he's trying to get her to play Boggle at some point, and just like teasing her about like, you can beat me at this game, wanting to teach her guitar. We see him opening up, and we see the person who died on the same day that Sarah did, and we're getting, a semblance of that a little bit. And yeah, I thought this moment was fantastic.
All these people talking about the apocalypse like there's no tomorrow. There's some good puns. I know he shits on him a lot, but like no, there's some solid ones, especially what did the green grape say to the purple grape? Just breathe, idiot. Like, oh my God. So dumb, but they're so rich. I kind of wish that book. I kind of wouldn't mind getting that book, but and again, like I said, like the rest of the game, for those who remember it, if you guys have played it recently, like I did, Marlene finds him, like the Fireflies find him and stuff, and she basically gives him the rundown. Like, listen, she's fine. She was worried about you, but she's getting ready for surgery because they, essentially with the way her immunity worked is like instead of the cordyceps like growing, it's like messengers or something in her brain, like just kind of like shutting them down. So they're still in her, but it's like just the antibodies essentially for it, and they got to operate and take it out of her, multiply it, and make it a cure. But Joel had that realization, like, but the cordyceps grow from the brain, and like just like the rest of the clickers, like in the bloaters, they don't just grow from the head because that's how it is. That's where it starts. And she's like, yeah, basically, like, yeah, they were gonna cut her brain open and just take it out of her. Like, she's gonna die from this. And yeah, and then the carnage ensued with Joel masterfully just ending everybody. Again, I had it visually, I was visualizing it a little bit differently, and I was hoping we'd have a little more visceral action in it, but it was very well done nonetheless. I kind of wish we had his rifle in the game, because with that M4 that you get, man, I was just missing shots a lot because it's just fucking riding up like crazy.
It's not a good weapon in the game.
No, not at all is a good weapon. You can't fix it. You can't customize it. You can't do anything to it. So it's just, that's it. But I think just this was like the taste of the Joel. It was a great blend, like how you said we saw the Joel from before Breakout Day, and this is the cold Joel that's just, nothing is stopping him. He is literally putting everything in him to get Ellie. And the shots of just all these people dead in the hospital, just, yeah, like I said, it's a kind of a chilling thing that you just killed dozens of people for this girl. And even though, and that was the best debate with this whole franchise, is what would you do in that situation? Would you sacrifice someone you love if it could save the rest of the world, or would you be selfish and keep that person alive to make yourself, like, keep yourself whole? And that was the craziest question, because especially how we saw Marlene caring about her mom and really trying to take care of her throughout her whole life, living by that promise. And then Joel has his promise to Tess, like, let's get her there and falling in love with Ellie, being like, this is my daughter. I'm not going to lose another daughter. So I think it was just such a great episode to really pose that question. And I am curious to see how like the reactions online would be after this, you know, like how are people going to feel like for those who never played the game, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and but I mean, to your first point, I think I do disagree. I know that you wanted it to be a little bit more visceral and a little bit more visceral and a little bit more punchy, but I think the way that it played out was probably is my preferred way, that, and I'm glad that they did it that way, so as not to glorify the violence that Joel was inflicting on these people. It was I like that how they framed it to be a little bit more disturbing. You know, that he's stalking through um this hospital and just like mercilessly killing people, you know, left and right. You know, we even get a shot of one guy, you know, completely giving himself up, and Joel still, you know, murders him. So I did like how in a way it put us into his mindset too, because it seems like when he commits these horrible acts of violence that he sort of disassociates. He has like this blank stare in his face and just pure determination of getting to Ellie. And you know, anyone who gets in the way is, you know, it's free game for him. So yeah, I thought it put us to the situation. I think the best way that it could, so as not to frame him as either, you know, straight up good guy, you know, a hero moment, taking out all these bad guys, and you know, John Wicking everybody, and you know, killing everyone just to save, you know, his daughter. And I also think it didn't go far in the way to also framing him as this horrible monster either. I think it left a little wiggle room for people to, you know, see it from either way. And I think that's why I really enjoyed the way it played out with, you know, the slow droning music and sort of like the silence to the little muffled silence to him, you know, his massacre basically through this hospital. So I did like the way it played out, but I can definitely see why people who, you know, played the game would be let down by that session.
Yeah, I mean it's fine either way. Like I agree to disagree. I know where you're coming from, and that's good. I'm glad you really liked it that way. I've been visualizing it my own way this whole time. So like not to have expectations, but at the same time it just that's what I was hoping I would see, just a little bit more like just traditional action with it. But the way you described it, I think is definitely the most accurate way, that we are seeing him just like almost shut off the human side of him and just completely, you know, for the person he loves, he's like, I'm just doing what I got to do. There's nothing. I don't care what you are. You're in my way. Get out of the way. And man, I want to talk about a little bit more about what happens next, just because like how, you know, he gets in the operating room, kills the doctor. That's a big deal. I don't want to say anything more for season 2, aka part 2, just because I'm in the middle of playing that game too, and I forgot how much better that game is in my opinion than number 1.
I definitely prefer it to the first one for sure.
Yeah, it's just great. You know, again, we
both
can't
so
talk about
good,
it too much. Yeah, we can't talk about it, but part 2 is better. So we'll see how they do season 2. But yeah, and then just him walking out with Ellie, and Marlene tries to stop him. That was again right out of the game. Just the cutting between his confrontation with Marlene, saying like, what is this all for? Like, what do you think is gonna happen? You're just gonna grow old and die. She'll just go on living her life. Like, are you okay with that? Like, she's basically telling him it's all for nothing. Like, you just literally ruined any chance we've had, all because you just want to be selfish. And his face, man, Pedro's just got that cold Joel stare down, where you could see he just doesn't care. And I one of the best lines, one of the hardest lines for me. I know wasn't really thrilled with the action, but when he shoots her and she's like, just stop, like let me go. And that line of just, yeah, you'll just find her anyways, and pops her in the head. I was like, oh, it was so good. I was like the guy from Hot Fuzz. I forgot. And I was like Nick Frost from Hot Fuzz. Just still great. But
my reaction is just always, Jesus Christ, like just it's like you said, it's a cold line, but it's just like, damn, like he just went full on like massacre mode. Like there was no one surviving that. So it's brutal to see, but yeah, there's a little bit of a catharsis to that for sure.
Yeah, and just the way it ended, where Ellie, you know, she hears that Joel's rehearsed speech about, no, there's been dozens like you. They gave up on a cure. Like, it was all like, we're just gonna go back to Tommy's and just do what I wanted to do originally. And you could see Bella just play it off like she's like, what the fuck? Like, she knows it's not. There's something more to this, and that Joel's just holding on to something that it doesn't sound right. And then right when they get to Jackson, she says like, "Please promise me that everything they did, like it was true, that there were more like me, and it just didn't work out." And he's like, "I swear." And just her, that face is like a false, just like, okay, like she's lying to him and herself at that point. Like she's just gonna try to find a way to live with it. So, just a great way to end this show, like this season, right out of the game. Definitely, I think so far the strongest show of the year. It'll be pretty tough to see what can top it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean that ending hits very hard, and it definitely hit so hard when I played the game for the first time, and each time that moment comes up, the swear to me where she's asking him, she's giving him the opportunity to come clean and to tell the truth, and he lies to her face. It always hits, in the game, and many times that I've played it, over the years, and it's always one of those moments that always gets me, and in the show it definitely did too, because yeah, she's a smart kid. She knows he's lying, but she's giving him the opportunity to tell the truth. And when he doesn't, because she cares so much about him, you can tell that she's willing, at least at this point, to accept the lie right now and to see how this plays out. So, yeah, it's one of those. It's a very, I don't want to say controversial or divisive ending, but it's one that's led to a lot of discussion amongst fans since the game came out. Just as you mentioned the Joel's decision, like where people fall on that, and I think the show and like the game, it gave us what it needed to, or what it was presenting to it, like where the question is whether or not Joel made the right or the wrong decision, but us understanding why he made the decision at that point. And I think Craig Mazin, at the end, that little the post episode documentary where he mentions that he puts it perfectly. The whole point is to understand why Joel makes the decision he makes at the end, and also to understand why Ellie would not have wanted him to make that decision. And I thought they executed that perfectly in the telling of this story here, and the adaptation from game to TV series. And yeah, I mean, I 100% agree that this is easily. I mean, yeah, we're early on in the year, but this is by far the best show that we've gotten so far, and I think it's by far the best video game adaptation that we've gotten up to this point. Not that there haven't been good ones, just this one I think is easily the best for me.
I mean, to be honest, I can't think of a great video game adaptation in a while, like both movie or show, to be honest, just because I'm not going to say Resident Evil's been good. Like, I like the little anime movies, but even then they're kind of cheesy. And then the shows have been garbage from Netflix, so that's not something to crack up. That's not something to be proud of. Movies were garbage. I think this is definitely by far the best video game adaptation we've ever had, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with season 2, aka part 2. And guys, it's funny when you said that it's not about what was right or wrong about the decision, but why you made it. It was a very Matrix answer. You know what I mean? You're like the Oracle at that point. I could see you turning into an older woman and just saying it's not the question of what is it the choice, it's why you made the choice. I was like, oh my god, I just felt like Neo. I was gonna put on my Keanu face, just yes, I get it.
I mean, it's just because for me, I think the game and the show don't have any, I guess, conflict into what they believe is the is if Joel made the right or wrong decision. I think it's very much framed as, maybe, I mean, he made the bad choice, but we understand why he made that choice. And given that situation, if we were in there, we would probably make the same choice. If it's our kid, if it's someone we love, we would probably do the same thing that he did.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, he's only human, like it could be worse, kind of thing. I don't know. I mean, I say that now, but I'm like, no, it's bad. But yeah, either way, like I said, it was a great show. I'm giving it a 5 out of 5 rating, like overall. I know the finale wasn't what I exactly envisioned, but such a great show, so many strong performances. It's hard not to give the show the credit it deserves. Like, next year, it better win some shit, in all honesty.
Yeah, I mean, big credit to Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin, the creators and the showrunners. They put together an excellent adaptation and assembled, a great crew and all the directors that were involved. You can tell that everyone that worked on this production were huge fans of the game, and of course we've been singing the praises of the actors throughout this series. Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal were truly amazing in their in their bringing to life of these characters. And yeah, like you said, there better to be some award blingage that they walk home with, because overall this series was incredible. I mean, from the great episode of Bill and Frank to the awesome episodes that we've gotten with these two characters, and in meeting other characters too. Like, it was just it was really well done, and I couldn't, as a fan of the game, I couldn't ask for a better adaptation, considering what we've gotten before for video game adaptations. And yeah, for me, this is also an easy 5 out of 5.
Of course. Okay, at least that we can agree on, Burn. You son of a bitch. Anyways, everybody, what did you think of this finale along with the show overall? We'd love to know in the comments to keep the conversation going. Did you love it as much as Burn did? Did you want more action like I did this time around? We'd love to know. Are you guys excited for season 2? God knows when it comes out. Hopefully in the next couple years.
Hopefully soon.
But yeah, again, we're going to be talking about Scream 6, which just came out. Easily my favorite movie of the year so far. You'll find out more about that in the review. And we got more Mando coming. We got John Wick coming out later this month. Shazam is coming out as well. A good couple of movies and stuff. So stay tuned for all that. And of course, as always, stay bodacious and keep on ranting for the both of us.
Yeah, absolutely, everybody. This has been a fun ride. So thank you for tuning in. And as always, be good, be safe, and we'll catch you on the next one.